everybody, back again. I know everybody is doing well. I know everybody is doing wonderful. Today I'm gonna have some fun. I'm going to be speaking on a subject matter that I absolutely love, and don't let anyone fool you into believing that this subject matter isn't important. Okay, this has been studied for thousands and thousands of years. All right, and essentially, what we're going to find out is, or essentially, what I need to tell you is that this is the foundation of the mystery system, of the mysteries. Okay, we're going to explore a profound mystery today, and this profound mystery is unlocking the treasures of the human being. So we talk about esoteric knowledge, we talk about esoteric information. What is this esoteric information concerning? This esoteric information is concerning the unlocking of the mysteries inside of the human being. Alright, in ancient Egypt you will see the snake on the forehead, which is formerly known as the Uraeus. Alright, and it is often said that this was to personify rulership or kingly status. But you will also see in the Indian tradition, which is the dot right here in the middle of the forehead. Okay, and in the New Age tradition, what we like to speak about a lot is the third eye, which is essentially awakening the spiritual consciousness. All right, and so when we're talking about awakening the spiritual consciousness, and when we're talking about the third eye, now we get into the concept of the higher self and the lower self. Okay, which is dealing with spirit and matter. All right, so now this is going to get interwoven into what I've been speaking about a lot recently, which is the Gnostic tradition, because the Gnostic tradition goes very deeply into restraining from the physical nature, restraining from physical pleasures, all right, in order to exalt the soul, in order to exalt the spirit. Okay, they deal with gnosis, which means knowledge. So the true knowledge was the knowledge of the soul. Okay, and just in the last video I talked about, or I pointed out in the Bible and in sacred texts of the Bible that they talk about not being of the world. Okay, and the dangers and living of just solely for the world, and how you can lose your soul, because we're in a conflict with physical and spiritual. But this whole reality, this whole physical matrix is nothing but matter and spirit together. This is what makes everything. All right, so it is obvious to understand that we must balance. Okay, we must balance this spiritual and physical reality that's taking place. All right, and if you don't understand, if you don't believe that it's a spiritual reality and a physical reality interwoven together in this physical plane, where you must understand and you need to believe that All right. All physical matter manifests from the spiritual world. Okay? Physical matter manifests from the spiritual world. All right. And I believe in science right now, they are up to the point, I believe it was Einstein, who basically who basically revealed that matter manifests from light. All right, so if I'm misquoting, if I'm wrong on that, somebody just check me in the comments. It is what it is, and I'll do my due diligence. But all right, because I believe it's also said that matter is just a slower vibration. All right, matter is just vibrating at a slower vibration than light. Okay, all right. But let's leave that. Let's leave there, because I ain't strong. I'm not strong in that area. But I hope you all kind of get the point, because what you kind of need to realize is that every day, science is basically catching up to the spiritual sciences that has been here for a while. All right. So how do we unlock the mystery? How do we unlock the mystery inside of ourselves? Well, I speak about this a lot on my channel. And it's pretty much a way of life. It's a lifestyle. All right. It's a understanding on who you truly are and how you need to conduct and carry yourself. All right. In the Indian tradition, it is popularly known to speak about Kundalini. And Kundalini is basically energy, or basically said to be a snake or a serpent that's coiled at the base of the spine. And when this serpent is released, or when this energy is released, it travels up the spine into the brain region. All right, and it travels through the spine along with the Pita, Pindala, and Ida and the Pindala, if I said that right. All right, and it moves and it travels travels along its path in a helix. I believe it's called a helix, in a helix formation. And as it travels along its path, of course, which is very popular, a lot of people know about, which is the chakra system. But I think a lot of times what people don't understand about the chakra system is that the chakra system is not as much as a physical area as they may think. The chakra system really deals with psychological aspects of the individual. Okay, and and a good understanding that you can get on this would be getting books or reading any type of book on autonomy. All right, and it gets into that very well. So if you are off balance in certain areas of life, then that chakra will be which is said to be a wheel of light. All right, that chakra will not be, I guess you can say, spinning or not functioning properly. All right, but if everything is balanced and you release Kundalini, and then you get your chakras, and everything will be vibrating as it should, Okay, and this is how you can unlock the mysteries of the human being, because it's inside of the Bible that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Okay, and your body is the temple. Okay, so even when you look into Kabbalah, Kabbalah is in the form of a man. And if you put the name Yod Hey Vav Hey right side up, you will see a formation of a man. And they also talk about Adam Kadmon, who is basically the macrocosm. Yeah, hopefully I'm saying that right. All right, this is the bigger man. This is the universe, or maybe not the universe, but our galaxy is what I personally think. All right, so the Sephiroth, to my understanding, is our galaxy, and this is Adam Kadmon, the bigger man, and we are created in his image, which is us, the smaller man. All right, created in his image. All right, and so in our galaxy, of course, is the planetary bodies, and hopefully you know that the planetary bodies has an influence on us, on our personality, and on our physical body as well. All right, so as above, so below. And and when you getting into what is called Kabbalah, and you get a little understanding of the Sephiroth, and you could easily see, hopefully, that it's essentially about balancing. Okay, so now that we're talking about balancing, it will be a great time to bring up Mayat. All right, which is truth, justice, and righteousness, which is said, but also balance, because Mayat, which is an Egyptian deity or Egyptian netter or Egyptian principle, a symbolism to convey a teaching or a way of thought or information. Okay, so Mayat is the order of the universe, which is balance. Okay, so Mayat essentially could be where you get the word math from. All right, and when you look at math, math is balance. You're essentially balancing. All right, and math is important because today we talk a lot about vibration, and we talk a lot about frequency, but frequency and vibration is a measurement. It's a measurement of the vibration of a thing. It's the measurement of the frequency of a thing, and this is mathematics. That's a measurement. Measurement is mathematics. Okay, so the universe and every physical thing is mathematics. So really, mathematics is the key. And one thing that we know about ancient Egyptians is that their mathematics was very deep, and you can easily see this through the geometry and the measurements of their structures. All right, pi has been found. The golden mean has been found. So yeah. So of course we all know about the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and when the energy travels along the spine, all right, it should, or is said to stimulate the glands inside of the brain that creates the anointing, the anointment, the oil, the sacred oil. Okay, it secretes a sacred oil. All right, so when you get into Charas or Christos, okay, where you get the word Christ from, and you can't leave out Krishna, it means anointed one, to be anointed. All right, so that goes back to the Uraeus. All right, that goes back to the third eye. This is unlocking the treasures inside of the mind. This is awakening the spiritual influx that's hidden inside of the human being. Okay, this is the mystery. Okay, this is the mystery. So I brought a little ammunition with me. Okay, and what I like to do is just to further help, just to further help the information. So this is coming from, can y'all see that there? All right, it's a little blur. Got a little blur on there. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right in, and and hopefully, we get a greater understanding of what we had before. How about that? So the pituitary body is given the name because it secretes a mucus or phlegm. It is a small reddish organ in a depression of the sphenoid bone and attached to the brain. It contains a viscid jelly-like material, which suggests the name. It is like material. It consists of two lobes bound together by connective tissue, and in structure resembles the thyroid gland. The interior lobe is hollowed out on its posterior surface, kidney shape, and receives the posterior lobe. The infundibulum is a funnel-shaped passage, a canal from this body pituitary to the third ventricle. This body secretes a fluid that seems to stimulate the growth of connective tissues and to be essential to sex development. This organ has a Mars-Neptune correspondence. The pineal gland is the male spiritual organ. The electric body, otherwise called Joseph in the Bible terminology, the father of Jesus, the male element in the seed of the source of the seed. To it also the seed, or Jesus, the Son, returns after his work is done. Joseph receives the body of Jesus and lays it in his own rock, the tomb, wherein no man was ever laid before. The pineal gland becomes hard like a rock when the brain sand, the saved seed, is furnished it. When no material is being returned intense to the brain, the pineal body is flabby and plasty. Let us examine for a moment those organs above the optic thalamus. In the article on the Santa Claus, the island of Rail, and the claustrum have been described. It is interesting to note that there are 5 different bodies laying in a perpendicular line directly beneath the structure as follows. First, the island of Rail, the claustrum, the external capsule. Alright, so we got an idea. As he describes the functions of the pituitary and the functions of the pineal, and how the pineal is basically basically describe like a weak muscle. Like, you know, if you got certain muscles that you're not using, that muscle is like very weak. Like somebody who's not using their legs or something like that, their legs would be really thin and weak. So this is the same thing with the pineal gland. If it's not being used, it's very. So he described the pineal gland as being weak and past, I forget the word, but you know, basically if it's not being used and if it's inactive, then it's at a weaker state. But when it's being used, it's hard like a rock. Okay, it's strong. Like, you know, when you build muscle, your muscle is strong and whatnot. So moving forward, I'm gonna read a couple passages from I don't want to say his name wrong. Muta Ashby, which is basically an ancient Egyptian, what I would say, a philosopher. He has a very unique perspective on the ancient Egyptian tradition, kind of unique to any other writer I have experienced. He deals mostly with the spiritual tradition, and not just so much so of the just the historical aspect of it. Okay. So he says, in a sense, religion in its purest form is also a yoga system. All right. So this is the book titled Egyptian Yoga. So he's just showing that ancient Egyptian had a yoga-like system. Yoga just means union. Okay, to yoke. Okay, to be in union with the higher being, or the higher self, or whatever one conceives to be one's higher source or source of power, is to be in union with that. All right. See, a lot of people don't really understand what yoga really is, so the right information don't come to mind when they hear yoga. All right. So continuing, in this sense, religion in its purest form is also a yoga system, as it seeks to reunite the soul with its true and original source, God. In broad terms, any spiritual movement or discipline that brings one closer to self-knowledge is a yogic movement. The main recognized forms of yoga disciplines are yoga of wisdom, yoga of devotional love, yoga of meditation, yoga of physical postures, yoga of self-action, yoga of tantric yoga, serpent power yoga. Okay? Okay. So, what is the overall goal of these practices? What is the overall goal of yoga? What is the overall goal of raising Kundalini? What is the overall goal of reaching your higher self? It's for enlightenment. That's the goal, enlightenment. Okay? Enlightenment is the term used to describe the highest level of spiritual awakening. It means attaining such a level of spiritual awareness that one discovers the underlying unity of the entire universe, as well as the fact that the source of all creation is the same source from which the innermost self within every human heart arises. Enlightenment. You kind of... It's like becoming Neo in the Matrix. You know what I mean? Like when you become enlightened, it's kind of like becoming Neo in the Matrix. You wake up. You're not just a physical vessel anymore. You're more than just a physical vessel. All right. You are understanding that you are eternal. All right. You are immortal. The flesh is physical, and physical is essentially not real. Geez, what's the term? in a hermetic point of view, the only thing that's real is that which doesn't change. All right, that's why I made a brief video not too long ago called what's it called? Truth is eternal. All right, and truth could be another term for the creator. All right, because the creator is the only truth, and the only truth is that which is the seed that's inside of us, which goes back to the Gnostic tradition. Okay, because you got to understand that this truth has been dispersed and built upon, you know, by different people, but the truth still lies in it, no matter, you know, how people like to go about it and build around it, you know, but the truth still lies in there, you know, somehow, some way, some shape or form. Okay. All right. Heru's struggle symbolizes the struggle of every human being to regain rulership of the higher self and subdue the lower self. All right. I kind of wish it was a way I can read without like disappearing from the screen, for real. You dig what I'm saying? I don't like that. These writings were inscribed in temples, coffins, papyruses, and contained the teachings in reference to the spiritual nature of the human being and ways to promote spiritual emancipation, awakening, or resurrection. All right. Man is to become godlike through a life of virtue and the cultivation of the spirit, through scientific knowledge, practice, and bodily discipline. Salvation is accomplished through the efforts of the individual. There is no mediator between man or his or her salvation. Salvation is the freeing of the soul from its bodily fetters, becoming a god through knowledge and wisdom, controlling the forces of the cosmos instead of being a slave to them, subduing the lower nature, and through awakening the higher self, ending the cycle of rebirth, and dwelling with the netters who direct and control the great plan. All right, so I don't think it gets any better than that. Great awakening occurs when all of the great truths have been realized by perfection and discipline to realize their true nature and actually experiences oneness with the transcendental supreme being. Okay, so it's obvious that that has Gnostic implications. I'll further explain where the Gnostics get their philosophy from, which is the ancient Egyptians. Okay, so but one thing that I didn't explain, and one thing that I didn't talk about, and one thing that is very popular today, which is semen retention. Okay, and this is basically not spilling the seed, with staining from sex, or not spilling the seed during sex. So it is said that the life force energy is in the male's creative fluid, all right, that leaves his body during the sexual orgasm. And if this life force energy is cultivated, all right, then it will further enlighten and move the individual towards enlightenment and awakening. All right, and that moves me to this book here. I'm going to read this little passage here, and then we'll get into what I actually grabbed the book for. But hence, when we strive after something higher, nature will find its opposite and bring it to bear in order to counteract the threatened imbalance. Thus, the more subtle the higher aspirations, the more subtle is the downward dragging elemental response. Okay. Alright, so difficulties on self-control. So he has a passage in here on the difficulties of self-control, which I would like to read. It must be remembered, we are actually not physical beings at all. We are spiritual intelligences actually existing within the fourth of the 7 solar come terrestrial states, from which a portion of our nature, a lesser spark or diva, is emanated into the triple lower planetary world, taking anchorage within our human heart. It is the same spark that must bring about the control of the lesser elemental nature, but it can only do so once it reaches a degree of contact with its emanating source. All right. As St. Paul put it, that which I would not, I do. That which I would, I do not. All the physical and emotional elements of our nature, which we have managed to bury beneath our good intentions, as a disciple rise up like electrified to confront us. Being of highly tenuous and volatile nature, they taunt us as we struggle to control them. We then begin to realize that we have to use a different method to bring about that control. Okay? So he's saying that potentially or essentially that, you know, the more we strive higher, okay, the stronger the opposite nature becomes. So that's really deep. This is one of my favorite books here. I just wanted to bring it out today. I don't know why. It kind of goes into what I'm talking about today, but I don't really have anything that I essentially want to read. But yeah, this is one of my favorite books. You know, I read this book plenty of times. It's just very interesting to me. But what needs to be said about Kabbalah and what's interesting about the Kabbalah tradition, okay, not the Torah, okay, the Kabbalah is an esoteric interpretation of the Torah, okay, and I will imagine that you have some people who deals with the Torah but may not believe in Kabbalah. Alright? And Kabbalah has a lot of Gnostic implications. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you get into the oral tradition of Kabbalah, you will see it's definitely Gnostic. Now, what's interesting is, and this is going to go left field, but it still ties into it. What's interesting is that you have Egypt and you have Samaria. Now, the big beef is which civilization came first and which civilization brought civilization to the other. All right, and it is my assumption that Mesopotamia is purposely made older to take the power out of Africa. To take the power out of Africa, to take the light out of Africa. All right, because Egypt is in Africa, and all of that information was cultivated by African priests. You know, yes, it was its own location in Africa, but it was Africa. Yeah, and a lot of times what people like to do is show how Egypt at times went against Nubia, but a lot of times you had Nubian pharaohs, you know, and things of this nature. So yes, they had their conflicts with Nubia, but that doesn't take away from them being African themselves. It was just a different region, just like you got just like any other people do it, you know. Americans fought against the Germans in the World War, but they were still both white people. Okay, so it is what it is. So essentially, your Torah tradition has majority of its influences coming from Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia. And your Gnostic and Christian tradition has majority of its influences coming from Egypt. All right, and just in my previous video, how I explained that even Christianity and the Hebrew tradition had its beefs, just as ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia had their beefs. So it's just like the same thing is going on from, you know, from later peoples who taken the information and reformed it, and it's just like the same thing is going on. So yeah, so Sumer, ancient Egypt, very similar but very different all at the same time. You know, it's a big conflict on who came first, who civilized who. I'm under the assumption that ancient Egyptian came first. There's not a lot of artifacts coming from there. It's a lot of clay tablets, and that's it. That's not enough for me. And you know, I'm all right. So I'm just under the assumption that, you know, the knowledge spread there from ancient Egypt. But it really doesn't matter. That's not really all that important to me. You know, truth is important to me, like things that we do know that's definitely a true fact and people don't acknowledge. That's important to me. But things that's just like a toss up and we just don't have the actual proof yet, or we kind of do, but you know, it's not really all about. I mean, it is, but that's not like something that I'm super worried about. But it is what it is. And I really kind of lost my train of thought talking about that, because I brought that up for a reason, but I lost it. All right, but I lost it. But I know I was talking about the Sefer Yetzirah. Then I went into ancient Mesopotamia and talking about the esoteric tradition of this. And so yeah, so the esoteric tradition of the Kabbalah essentially it essentially is drawing on that ancient tradition, such as ancient Egypt or such as ancient Mesopotamia. Is drawing from that sacred ancient knowledge. And I just leave it there. All right, and I just leave it there. Is there anything else that I want to cover? All right. Is there anything else that I would like to cover? Is it... All right. I told you. So, this is the Sephirah arranged in the form of a man. All right, which is known as Adam Kadmon, which is, under my assumption, our galaxy, because each Sephirah can correspond to a planet. And this planetary, in this galaxy, and all these planetary bodies, they work together and form a union. All right, and this union is the Elohim. Okay, the Elohim, the kingdom. The Elohim is one. All right, all parts become one. So, you know, yeah, you know, and that's just, you know, people like to talk about the pagans. Oh, they're pagans. You know what I mean? But your God is one through many different parts. All right? And you got that from somewhere, or they got that from somewhere. All right? And we just talked about where. Ancient Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia. All right? The different parts come together and make the one. The Netchers come together and make the one. What is it? The Anunnaki come together and make the one. Yeah. And the last thing I want to end this off with is mantras. We talk about affirmations. All right. We talk about the power of speech. We talk about vibrations. And we talk about frequency. All right. So the power of speech, all right, is very important. It is godly. It's divine. The way we speak, we can communicate. We can create. All right. We can create with our thoughts and with our speech. All right. And certain words and certain mantras or certain songs, or I've just been made aware of, because there's some people doing a lot of great, there's some people doing some great work on this YouTube. Prayers can be mantras. All right. Songs, you know, and this is vibrational frequency. All right. It's causing a certain vibrational frequency through saying these mantras, through a certain vibrations, through vibrating certain words said a certain way to create a certain state of mind. All right, to increase that spiritual influx, to increase spiritual awareness. All right, to increase a higher vibration, to increase the power of the higher self. Because essentially this is about the higher self gaining control over the lower self. The spiritual, immortal, living creature gaining control over the physical vessel. All right. And yeah. And I think that about wraps us up for today. Like, share, subscribe. It's been a pleasure. I had fun. Till we meet again. Peace.